So I'm sure by now you've probably seen this gentleman behind me, or maybe I've even seen the video that's about 5 minutes long that's gone crazy on the internet. And people have asked me and sent me inboxes asking me, Kyle, have you seen this video? And I'm like, no, I have not. I would get around to it. Well, just today, I saw that the Gateway Pundit made it a headline on their website. It says, must watch MAGA Republican from Ghana, now U.S. citizen, sends a powerful message to Joe Biden. And this is a powerful message. I have seen the video. I tried to do a reaction a minute ago, but the audio didn't work. So I'm doing it for the second time, but I'm looking forward to reacting to it for the second time, and for you, the first time. So let's get into it.
Hi, everyone. This message is for the President of the United States. So if you know someone close to him, please tag them so they can bring this to his attention. My name is Alma Ohene-Opare. I'm a person of faith, a husband of 16 years, and a father of 4 wonderful children. I am also an immigrant to the United States of America. I came here at the age of 19, full of hope, optimism, and a willingness to do what was necessary to achieve the American dream.
I'm going to stop there because this is important. He talks about him coming to this country at 19. He's married, I think he said 16 years. He's got 4 kids. He's got hope. And he uses key words like that in this particular video that key us into things that we are familiar with. And I'll let him go more into that. But the important thing I want to take away from this part right here is that he was willing to work for the American dream and for U.S. citizenship.
After 18 years of waiting and hoping, I was finally granted the privilege of becoming an American citizen in 2021. Today, I am a proud American, a law-abiding patriot, and a man willing to defend the principles and values that made America great.
Let's stop right there. I won't stop that much more, but I got to say this. He said, privileged to be an American citizen. We don't hear much about that. Privileged to be an American citizen. And he talks about how he is a person who is a patriot who wants to make America great. Hey, no person who has any common sense can be mad about trying to make America great. And that's what the problem the Democrats have, is that how can you flip something like that on its head? And he does a great job right here.
Brought people like me here. Mr. President, I am also a conservative Republican, or what you have recently labeled a MAGA Republican. Over the last few days, you have looked into the camera and called me and millions of other people like me extremists. You have told me and my children that we don't matter to you because of our beliefs. Your spokespeople and the media have labeled us dangerous, full of hate, and a threat to democracy. You went as far as to suggest that we would not stand a chance against the government's F-15s in defending our country from tyranny. Your party leaders have taken your cue and called us terrorists, and all this without taking any time to acknowledge our humanity, listen to our concerns, or seek to understand our fears.
All right, let's stop right there. I want to just first take away the optics here, because that's what's so important here, because the left so desperately wants you to have in your mind, when they say MAGA, when they have this mantra of ultra MAGA or whatever they want to try and project on us, they want you to think one thing, and I'll let you think for yourself, but you know what I'm talking about. It does not look like this guy right here.
I was born in a country where my rights were not always guaranteed. And to hear the President of America and the leader of the free world dismiss more than 70 million of his own countrymen as fringe and extreme and not worth listening to breaks my heart and makes me wonder what I should tell my children about the future of this once great shining city on a hill.
All right, I'm gonna stop there. I'm sorry I got to stop him, guys, but this is really, really important. He said, because I didn't catch this the first time, he said he was in a country, Ghana, where his rights were not guaranteed. His rights were not guaranteed. That is, to me, the point of this whole thing right here. Because when people talk about MAGA, conservative, or conservative, they want to flip it on its head and say, well, in Europe, conservative doesn't mean what it means here in America. You're right, it doesn't, because conservative is a relative term. It's relative to what you're trying to conserve. In America, we weren't founded from a monarchy. We weren't founded from a church. We weren't founded from a dictatorship or a single government where the government themselves had the rights to themselves and they divided them out as if saw fit. No, we were founded on the principle that all men are created equal and our rights are given to us by God and are unalienable, which means they can't be taken from us. In other words, they are guaranteed, unlike where this guy came from. That's why American conservatism is different than anywhere else in the world. And don't let anyone tell you, because our rights don't come from the monarch, the dictatorship, the king, the queen, whatever it is. It comes from those documents, which ultimately came from the Magna Carta. I get that. But fundamentally, it came from those principles. Fantastic. And I got to keep going.
This is the reason many of us embrace the call to make America great again. It is because we believe our great nation is under a moral, fiscal, and spiritual assault. We are MAGA because we want to restore the promise in the hearts of our children that this is the place where their efforts will be rewarded and where their true potential can be realized. We are MAGA because we believe in freedom of speech, the freedom to exercise our religion.
One more thing here. He says efforts will be rewarded. I mention that because people who look like him, who live in this country for decades, their entire lives, who has the same skin tone as this guy, complain every single day of things like racism, systemic this, systemic that, blah, 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 blah. But this guy and millions like this guy come over here across the pond, who, by the way, don't have the advantage of hopping a border where there's a landmass across. They're coming over from a much further distance, much more difficult in terms of distance and everything else. And yet they are coming in the right way, getting in the back of the line. He hoped and eventually was able to get the privilege to become an American citizen. And that is the big difference here. And that is why they don't want people like this voice to be put out there, because it just flies in that face of that narrative that they want to project, that people like him who has this skin tone are victims. And he says just now that he doesn't want his kids raised in a country where they teach his kids who look like him that they're victims. It's totally incredible how well Africans do coming over here in one generation versus others have been here who look exactly the same, who've had just as much privilege here in America, but haven't done nearly enough or met the same level of success that people have come over from across the pond, which is why I'm saying it's not about skin tone at all. Get off that.
We believe in limited government and the rule of law. We are MAGA because we love the Constitution and believe our founders established a means for we the people to defend it from enemies, both foreign and domestic. I am MAGA because I want to be able to look into the eyes of my 4 Black children to assure them that they're not victims, that they hold inside them what it takes to achieve anything they set their hearts on. We believe our leaders should put America and its interests first before any other nation. We believe our government should not saddle our children and grandchildren with insurmountable debt, chasing after a misguided idea of controlling or changing the course of the climate. Millions of us were horrified to witness what happened on January 6th and believe that justice must be served. But we also see through the attempt to paint all Republicans with a false moniker of insurrectionists and to conflate the genuine misgivings of those who feel disaffected and disenfranchised with an unfounded accusation that we are somehow against democracy. We are MAGA because we love law enforcement, but doubt whether the Justice Department or the FBI can be trusted to deal fairly and impartially when they have given us clear and repeated evidence of their political bias against half of the country. As a new American, this November will be the first time I get to exercise my right to vote, a right I've waited nearly 2 decades to earn. I understand the urge during an election season to attack those you see as political opponents. But Mr. President, I am not your enemy, and the tens of millions of MAGA Republicans are not filled with hate towards anyone.
It's really a shame that we live now in a time when a person, a U.S. citizen, feels he has to make a video to the President of the United States, letting him know that he's not his enemy, especially when this person is a law-abiding citizen and just wants to live his life. Incredible.
We love this country. We are heirs of the great legacy of freedom this country has afforded us and wish to exercise our right to be heard and not demonized. So I ask you, Mr. President, to tear down this wall of divisiveness and division that seeks to pit your fellow citizens against one another. Heed your own call for unity and lay off the rhetoric that seeks to demonize and defame millions of people who would give their lives and fortunes to defend these United States. If you believe in the redemption of America, then give my children a reason to hope, a reason to believe that our best days are ahead of us, in spite of the challenges we face as a country. Thank you for listening.
And so there you have Mr. Ohene-Opare, does a fantastic job of framing his speech here in a way that's acceptable to everybody, even people on the left, because he talks about hope. First, he mentioned hope, and then he goes into quotes by Reagan, shining city on a hill. He goes into saying, are you better off than when you were, X number of years ago, which is what Reagan said. Also talking about our best years are ahead of us, tear down this wall. All these things he puts in there in a way that's identified from a person, Reagan that is, who even people on the left still say was a decent president and was something that they really can't come after because they know he is a landmark in U.S. history. And so by doing that, he does a fantastic job of pushing his message out there to people on both sides of the aisle. He does it in love and respect, but also in a way that he sounds fearful for our future, but how he's also encouraged for his ability to actually do something by voting and in working to the point where he could vote because it took him so many years to become a U.S. citizen. This video is absolutely fantastic. It's genius. It's heartfelt. And I see now why it's gone all over the place, because what this gentleman has done is he's framed the MAGA movement in a way that it never wants to be looked at from the other side of the aisle. Because this gentleman, no matter how he looks, no matter what he's wearing, no matter how he sounds, he is what the most white person in the most rural county in this country feels. We feel the same thing, which is why when you go to a Trump rally, it's all love, because no matter what, we all come under the umbrella of life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, coming to the terms of what it means to be American. And we want to have the best of that. And every person who lives in their own country wants the best for their country, just like we want what's best for our country. It's common sense, and he frames it in a way, in a narrative that makes it very, very, very difficult for the left to come at him. They're just gonna have to ignore him because they really can't say anything otherwise. But this is fantastic, and it flies in the face of that red backdrop, mean, hateful speech that Biden gave. And this is done the absolute opposite of that. And it's just fantastic. And if you want to know what it means for America to be great, check out these videos right here.